Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I'm a 25-year-old woman living in New York, and for the past year and a half, I've been trying to get my life together after weight loss surgery. Walking to work has become part of my routine, not just because our car is broken, but because I need the exercise, and it's only a 30-minute walk anyway. I've been working in grocery stores for 11 years, dealing with customers day in and day out. The pay isn't great, the hours are long, and people can be absolutely terrible. But recently, I decided to pursue my dream of becoming a teacher. I'm taking classes and working part-time while I transition careers. It's been tough, but I'm determined to make it work. The latest winter storm was supposed to hit that morning, and I was bundled up in my big rig coat and black hat with a puffball on top. I know I look like a teddy bear, but honestly, I don't care. I was already running a bit behind schedule, but I figured I had time to grab a quick bite at the Burger King on my way to work. When I walked in, I put my mask on and got in line. There was an older woman getting her order taken, and an older man standing near the line. I asked if he was waiting in line, and he told me yes. A few moments later, another man came out of the bathroom and joined him. The second man asked his friend if he had ordered yet. The first man said he hadn't, and was still waiting in line. The second man complained loudly about how slow the staff was, and said he just wanted his burger. I stood there scrolling on my phone, internally rolling my eyes. The woman finished her order, and the two men moved up to the counter. The second man told the cashier he wanted a plain burger and nothing else. The cashier started to ring up his order, but then the man suddenly stopped her and pointed to his friend, saying he wanted a coffee too. The first man specified he wanted a medium with 3 cream and 3 sugar. The second man told the cashier to hurry up. The first man paid for both orders, and I stepped up to place mine. I told the cashier I wanted 2 spicy chicken juniors with onion and tomato. I paid and stood to wait. It was about 11:30 a.m., right in the middle of lunch rush. Since I didn't have to be at work until noon, I didn't mind waiting a few minutes. The staff was clearly busy, but they were working as fast as they could. About 2 minutes passed when the second man started getting impatient again. He used a nasty slur to describe the staff and complained loudly about wanting his burger. He shouted at the workers asking for his food. The first man chimed in saying he just wanted his coffee and that the staff couldn't even manage that simple task. The staff ignored them and continued working. The woman who had been in front of us got her food and left politely. Then the cashier placed a small bag on the counter and called out that there was a bacon cheeseburger ready. I looked around wondering who ordered that. The two men were busy complaining to each other about how slow and useless the staff were. A moment passed. The second man yelled out asking where his burger was. The cashier apologized and held up the bag with the bacon burger, explaining it was right there. The man got angry and said that was a bacon cheeseburger, not what he ordered. He demanded his plain burger and told her to get it right. The cashier apologized again for the mix-up and said she would fix it right away. The second man then made another cruel comment about the staff using the same slur from before. That's when I'd had enough. I've spent 11 years in customer service, and I've seen how cruel people can be to workers who are just trying to do their jobs. My best friend works at a fast food place, and I hear the horror stories every day. These employees didn't deserve this treatment. I turned to the second man and told him he needed to lower his voice and speak to the workers with more respect. He seemed shocked and asked me what I had said. I asked him if he had ever worked in fast food. He said no. I told him to shut his mouth and wait for his food. I explained that I was overheating in my coat, struggling to breathe in my mask, and risking being late for work, but he didn't hear me complaining. I told him these people were exhausted, overworked, hot, aching, and underpaid. I pointed out that he had come during lunch rush and asked if he had seen the long line of cars outside. I said the employees were moving as fast as they could. I challenged him to look me in the eye and tell me he knew exactly what they were going through, or else he needed to shut up and learn some manners. I sarcastically commented on his age, saying he was old enough to have learned basic manners by now. The entire restaurant went quiet. The second man looked like he wanted to say something back, but he just stood there with his mouth opening and closing like a fish. The first man looked embarrassed and stared at the floor. The cashier caught my eye and silently mouthed her thanks, with tears in her eyes. The other employees behind the counter were trying not to smile, but I could see the relief on their faces. Just then, another employee came out with a plain burger and the coffee and told the men their order was ready. The second man grabbed the bag and coffee without a word. Both men shuffled toward the door, but not before I heard the second man mutter about how people should mind their own business. I wished them both a great day in the sweetest voice I could manage, but there was definitely an edge to it. They left without looking back. The cashier handed me my order with a huge smile and told me my food was on the house. She thanked me for standing up for them. I told her she didn't have to do that, but she insisted, saying people like me made the job worth it. I thanked her and left, my hands shaking from the confrontation. I'm not usually good with conflict, but I was proud of myself for speaking up. About 20 years ago, I worked for a tech company that made software for banks and credit unions. I've been doing this job for some years at that point, so I knew the drill pretty well. Two smaller regional banks had just merged, and my company got called in to upgrade all their branches with the same software version and point their network to the new consolidated system. It was a standard job, nothing too complicated, but it required coordination between our tech team and the bank staff who would be working the next day. On this one evening, I was heading up the upgrade at one of the smaller branch locations. It was a cozy little place with just 4 offices, a conference room, and space for maybe 5 tellers up front. I arrived around 4:30 p.m. with 2 guys from my team, planning to meet with the branch manager and 2 bank employees who would be opening the following morning. The timing couldn't have been worse. When I was setting up for our meeting, the bank started getting slammed with customers. Apparently, it was payday for some large employer in the area, and people were lining up to cash their checks and make transactions. The waiting area was filling up fast, and I could see the stress on the bank manager's face when he kept looking between our meeting and the growing crowd. I rushed through the details with the branch manager, explaining the upgrade process and what we'd need from his end. The whole time I could hear the noise from the front getting louder when more people came in. After about 15 minutes, I released the manager so he could help deal with the rush. I did the same with the 2 opening staff after giving them their instructions. My team knew the process backward and forward. They just needed to know which computers to start on first and the order of operations. I wrapped up with them quickly and sent them out to grab some food, figuring the bank might not close on time anyway, with all the customers still waiting. I headed over to the bank manager's office to review some final paperwork when I heard footsteps behind me. A woman had ducked under the rope line that separated the waiting area from the employee section and was making a beeline straight for the office. She tried to follow me inside. At first, I thought maybe she was a bank employee I hadn't met yet. But when I turned around, she started complaining about how long she'd been waiting. She claimed it had been half an hour, which was complete nonsense since we'd started the meeting at 4:30 and it wasn't even 5 o'clock yet. I tried to explain that she was mistaken and that I didn't work at the bank, but she cut me off without even listening to what I was saying. She plopped herself down in one of the chairs across from the desk like she owned the place and announced that she needed to make a withdrawal. I told her I couldn't help her with that and that she'd need to wait in line with everyone else. She refused, insisting she'd already waited for an hour and that she knew I could do it because I'd done it before. She slapped her ID and bank card on the desk with this entitled attitude that made my skin crawl, demanding I just open the drawer and give her $2,000. I tried to explain that I couldn't do that, but she kept interrupting me. She insisted it was nonsense and that I'd done it before, yelling at me to give her the money. When I continued to refuse, she really lost it. Her voice went up about 3 octaves, and she stood up from the chair, declaring that this was it. I thought she was finally going to leave, so I went to open the door for her. Instead, she pushed me back and yelled at the top of her lungs that she wasn't leaving the office until I gave her $2,000. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She picked up a screwdriver from my tech guy's toolkit that was sitting on the desk and started prying at the desk drawer. This woman was literally trying to break into the bank manager's desk right in front of me. I pushed her back, trying to get the screwdriver away from her, but she swung at me with it. I stepped back just in time, but the tip caught my arm, tearing my shirt and leaving a scratch. She immediately went back to prying at the drawer like nothing had happened. I'd had enough at this point. I looked out the office window and saw that all the bank employees seemed busy with customers. It didn't look like anyone had noticed her yelling, and she wasn't making any progress on the desk since it was too sturdy for a screwdriver to damage. I tried a calmer approach, hoping to de-escalate the situation. I asked her to please stop and tried to get her to understand the situation. She stopped for a moment and looked at me like she had forgotten I was even there, then snapped at me asking if I was going to get her money or what. I told her again that I wasn't an employee of the bank. She called it nonsense and pointed out that I'd been in the meeting with the other employees. I started to explain the difference, but she cut me off again, demanding I get her money or get out of her way. She pushed me again, harder this time. I looked out the window and noticed something strange. All the bank employees had gotten very quiet and calm, which seemed odd given how busy they'd been just minutes before. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just going to stand there and watch this woman rob the bank. She was a big woman, probably had a few pounds on me, but I played hockey against bigger people. I figured I could at least slow her down until security or police arrived. I took a step back, brought my shoulder down, then with a quick step and a short lunge, I checked her straight into the brick wall behind her. She smacked her head against the wall with a solid thud and made a short sound when I knocked the wind out of her. Then she collapsed to the floor, unconscious. I watched her for a moment thinking that was easier than I'd expected. Why didn't I do that earlier? Then I started worrying that maybe I'd hurt her seriously, so I knelt down to check on her. She was breathing normally, which was a relief. I knew I shouldn't move her, and the screwdriver had flown across the office when she fell, so I just stepped over her and walked out into the bank. That's when I heard the sirens. Lots of them, getting closer. A few minutes later, several police officers came into the bank. Having just knocked a woman unconscious, I immediately put my hands up, expecting to be arrested. But the officers walked right past me and headed straight for the office. I turned around and saw the bank staff pointing toward the office where I'd just left the woman. That's when the bank manager explained what had really happened. The staff had triggered the silent alarm when she'd yelled at me to give her money. They'd moved all the other customers to the conference room and were following bank protocols to comply with the robbery attempt and not interfere. The woman woke up to being handcuffed. A paramedic checked her out briefly before she was arrested for armed robbery, kidnapping, and assault. The screwdriver from my tech guy's toolkit was taken when evidence, and we teased him for the next few years about when he was going to get his screwdriver back. I'm a 14-year-old mixed kid living in the Netherlands. My dad is Dutch and my mom is Vietnamese, and I've been playing guitar for over 5 years now. My dad got me into progressive metal when he was younger. He's a huge fan of Dream Theater and always had their music playing around the house. That's how I fell in love with complex guitar work and started learning more technical songs. Guitar became my escape. While other kids my age were playing video games or hanging out at the mall, I was in my room practicing scales, learning new techniques, and working on increasingly difficult songs. My fingers were constantly sore from practicing, but I loved every minute of it. My parents were supportive but busy with work, so most of my musical journey was pretty solitary. Last year, right before the whole virus situation hit, my school announced they were having a talent show for second-year middle school students. I was almost 14 at the time and had been working on this really challenging song by Hacken called The Endless Knot. It's a progressive metal piece that requires some serious technical skill, and I'd been practicing it for months. I even worked out a little improvised solo to play during the quiet piano section near the end. I decided to sign up for the talent show. There wasn't any real prize or anything, it was just supposed to be for fun and entertainment. When I saw the list of other participants, there were about 10 of us total. 6 girls had signed up to sing, there was 1 dance group, 2 comedians, and 1 other guitarist besides me. The day of the talent show arrived and I was nervous but excited. My parents couldn't make it because of work, which was disappointing, but I understood. I brought my Epiphone Les Paul guitar. It's a 6-string with single coil pickups that I'd saved up for months to buy. I also brought my homemade pedal board that I've been working on for over a year, connecting different effects pedals to create the sound I wanted. The other acts went first. The comedians were actually pretty funny. One of them had me cracking up with his jokes about school life. The singers were good too, and the dance group was energetic. When my turn came, I plugged in my guitar, adjusted my amp settings, and launched into the endless knot. The song is normally played on a 7-string guitar, but I adapted it for my 6-string by playing the lower parts an octave higher. It still sounded great, and when I got to the improvised solo section, I could see people in the audience really getting into it. The complex rhythms and technical passages seemed to impress everyone, and when I finished, the applause was incredible. To my surprise, I won the talent show. There wasn't an actual award or trophy, but the judges announced that my performance was the winner. I was over the moon. It was honestly one of the best moments of my life. Parents were giving me a standing ovation. Other participants were congratulating me, and I felt like all those hours of practice had finally paid off. But not everyone was happy. One of the girls who had sung was crying because she didn't win. Her mother, who I'll call Karen, immediately rushed over to comfort her daughter. At first, I thought it was just normal disappointment, but then Karen started looking at me with this intense anger. Suddenly, Karen walked over to the judges' table and started making accusations. She was claiming that I had faked my guitar playing, that there was no way a kid like me could actually play something that complex. The judges looked confused, but Karen wasn't backing down. Then she followed me up onto the stage, and in front of everyone she started publicly accusing me of cheating. At first I thought maybe she knew something about the song that I didn't, maybe she knew it was supposed to be played on a 7-string guitar, but that wasn't her issue at all. Karen accused me of making her daughter cry with my fake playing. I told her that I hadn't faked anything. She insisted that a kid like me could never play something that complicated, and that there was no other explanation besides me faking it. She didn't have any real arguments, just this assumption that I couldn't possibly be skilled enough to play technical music. I asked her why I would participate in a talent show without any awards and fake something. That seemed to make her pause for a moment, but then she demanded that I prove I wasn't faking it. So I unplugged my guitar from the backing track and played some fast scales and the solo section completely on my own. The audience could clearly hear that it was live, and people started telling Karen to leave the stage. But instead of backing down, she escalated things even further. I was wearing my Tool shirt that day. It has some graphic artwork on the back that looks kinda dark and artistic. Karen fixated on this and took the conversation in a completely different direction. She accused me of being a Satanist. I was confused and asked what she meant. She pointed at my shirt and said it was pure satanic. I explained that it was just a band shirt and that they weren't even satanic. She said she didn't believe me and claimed I was going to manipulate everyone with my devilish music. I told her I wasn't manipulating anyone and was just doing this for fun. Then she called me a racist slur about my Asian heritage and told me to get lost and go back to my devilish life. I was getting really angry at this point. I told her I wasn't a Satanist and demanded she stop using that racist slur, but she said it again, even louder this time. The judges were trying to get her to leave the stage, and her daughter was trying to stop her mother, looking absolutely mortified. The poor girl was so embarrassed that she ran away from the whole situation. Karen looked at me and blamed me for making her daughter upset. Then she actually tried to punch me. I just pushed her away to defend myself, and finally other adults stepped in to physically remove her from the stage. When people were dragging her away, she kept screaming more racist slurs at me. The whole auditorium could hear her, and everyone was staring in shock. The school administration immediately banned her from the premises, and I never saw her again after that day. A few weeks later, the daughter approached me at school. She looked really nervous and apologized for what her mom did at the talent show. She said her mother was completely out of line and that she was embarrassed about how she acted. I told her it wasn't her fault and that she didn't have to apologize for her mother's behavior. She said she knew that but felt like she had to say something because what her mom said to me was horrible and she had no right to attack me like that. We ended up becoming friends after that conversation. I went over to her house a few times to hang out, but I never saw her mom during any of those visits. I never asked what happened with her family situation because I didn't want to bring up those bad memories. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.